What's the worst thing you've ever been accused of while being completely innocent? Bank robbery. I was early for my first day as a gas jockey in a new city. I was across the street from the gas station, digging through my backpack when suddenly somebody told me to show them my hands. I was totally confused to look up and see two RCMP officers, hands on their sidearms. They didn't draw or anything. Turns out there had been a bank robbery around the corner a few minutes before, and my gas jockey uniform and backpack matched the description. They looked inside my bag, containing my brown bag lunch and a paperback, and then they were gone in a flash. Apparently, the guy didn't get caught until after another bank robbery in the same area. My first week of high school, I got called into the office because rumors were flying around that I was planning to blow up the school and had already rigged it with explosives. This was obviously news to me. Then about a year later, I had my wisdom teeth removed and missed a week of school. When I finally came back, my friends had to explain the freaked out looks I kept getting from classmates. Apparently a boy who regularly picked at me had vanished from school about the same time I did, and the rumor going around was that I had killed him, eaten him, and then been arrested. Everybody was surprised to see me because they'd spent the past week telling each other about how I was in jail, and he was in my stomach. Folks sure make up weird rumors. The boy was fine, he'd just been suspended. Drugs? Shockingly enough, my parents' divorce made me act out at 9 years old, and I kept distracting other kids in class. My mom was convinced it was because I was doing drugs and yanked hair out of my head, and made me get blood tested. They found nothing, because I was 9 years old. Accused of breaking a girl's arm on a bounce house at a local fair when I was like 8 yo. Had been on there only a few seconds, was just doing my thing and I heard screaming. We all stopped. The girl had an obviously broken arm and pointed at me and said, "He did it." With her non-broken arm, of course. Dude in charge kicked me off, no refund. I found my family and explained it to them, and my uncle said he was recording me on his camcorder when it happened. 1982. The camcorder was the size of a briefcase and ran on VHS tapes, but we had no way to play it back while there. Went home, plugged the thing into the VCR, and played it back absolute 100% that it wasn't me. But then I got a life lesson in how being right doesn't mean you. When my dad pointed out, we'd have to walk 15 minutes back to the bounce house and argue with them, with no way of showing them the video, unless they sent someone to our house to watch it all to get the 10p that I paid for 5 minutes on the bounce house. It would have been, at best, a Pyrrhic victory. Most likely they'd tell us to piss off. My father was accused of murdering the neighbor's dog and disposing it at a remote beach. When I was a kid we had a rocky relationship with one of the neighbors, because they had a yappy dog that they took very poor care of. It drove the whole street mad, but for some reason it never got taken away by animal control. A few years ago my parents moved to another part of town. Afterwards, Dad worked on the old house to get it ready to sell. One day he was on the driveway when the neighbors left in their car. They made eye contact. Then, when the neighbors returned, their dog was inexplicably missing. They instantly accused Dad of sneaking over and butchering the dog because he had enough of it. He tried to explain that an animal control van had briefly come through the street shortly after they left, but they weren't having a bar of it. They were so convinced he had done something they started a massive social media campaign to pressure him into admitting it, including invading all the local community groups and outing him. They even went so far as to drive an hour out of town to the beach we often go to in the weekends to put up posters. It was wild, stressful and stupid. It only stopped after we picked up a lawyer and sent a cease and desist letter threatening to take them to court for public defamation. The dog was never found, and apparently they have 2 new ones now. This was also the same family that found someone's lost cat and decided to keep it. We lived in a townhome condo complex. My mom was fighting with the board over misused funds. When she was at work there was a knock at our door. One of the neighbors had an emergency and asked if I could come and watch her kids while she went to the hospital. Sure. I was 16 and had been babysitting for 4 years. I spent a few hours looking after 2 cute kids, 3 and 5. I got home before my mom. We started dinner and there was a knock at the door. It was a pair of police. The mother had gone to the police station and accused me of abusing her 3-year-old. She said that I hit her and locked her in the dryer for several hours. My mom asked the cop if he was insane. She pointed out that I was the kid who picked caterpillars off the walk and put them on the grass so people didn't step on them. She asked the cops to point out the complainant. When he pointed, my mom asked me if I was crazy because that's the woman who stole funds from the condo board. Why would I go there? I said I didn't know that, and that she said she had to go to the hospital immediately because her dad had had a heart attack. The cops said they would be back. They came back an hour later and said I would not need to come with them after all. Turns out Dad was alive and well. I wasn't so well after having a full-blown panic attack for an hour. In 4th grade someone kept stealing mouse balls from the computer lab. I remember our teacher warning us about it. One day my teacher pulled me aside and told me that someone had accused me of being the mouse ball thief. It was a guy I was friendly with but not friends with, kind of an outcast. I assured him this was totally false, and I think he believed me. I was a mostly good kid. The next day at school I look inside my pencil box and what do I find but a mouse ball sitting inside. I'm freaking out. I go up to the teacher probably talking a million miles an hour about how I didn't steal the mouse ball, didn't know why it was in my pencil box, etc. He looks at me doubtfully and says he'll have to get with the principal and figure out what to do with me. The whole evening I'm still freaking out. My mom has the idea of looking my accuser up in the phone book. I looked that jerk up and confronted him and his father about what was happening. He denied doing anything on the phone. The next day the kid admitted to the teacher first thing, he had planted the ball as a practical joke. Saw the guy years later and he was trying to be friendly. I found myself still pissed off about this incident. Posted this before, but seems relevant. I was fighting with my brother, realized the fight was dumb, so I just went to my room. My brother decided to punch himself and blame me. My mom is yelling at me and grounding me. I can't believe you did that to your brother, blah blah blah. So I figured if I was about to get in trouble for it, I should actually do it. I turned around and actually clocked my brother in the face, to which he responded, I can't believe she actually did that, and my mom realized he had been lying. I ended up not getting in trouble. When I was in elementary school, my friend tickled me while I was hanging from the monkey bars. She was very tall for her age, and could touch the bars with her feet on the ground. I was super short, so the fall I took when I lost my grip was pretty long, and I had a lot of time to flail and desperately try to grab something to save myself. Unfortunately, my tiny hand found the waistband to her leggings, and I took them to the ground with me, exposing her undies. She sprinted away and went straight to the principal's office to say that I had pantsed her on the playground. This being a very weird, small, hyper-religious elementary school, the incident was taken extremely seriously. The principal cautioned me about my obvious perversion, and much ado was made about how this would reflect on my permanent record. Years later, my mom revealed to me that the school was toying with the idea of expulsion. The thought of me as a very small, 6-year-old girl being reprimanded with this level of gravity about this alleged pantsing is so silly now, but it was very scary back then. My favorite teacher in high school was in his mid-20s and was absolutely paranoid over catching an accusation like this. I guess his brother, also a teacher, got accused of it, and it ruined his career. He would make sure he didn't spend 1 second alone with any students, always had another teacher in the room if he was talking to a lone student about something, never said a word outside the scope of professionalism, started every year off with the same speech, "Do not come up and hug me, we aren't friends, I'm here to teach, you're here to learn," did everything the right way. Then he caught a sophomore student getting high between buildings at lunch, and the little cunt ran off and told her mom he showed her his dick. Game over for him. Even though 3 other students were nearby and witnessed the whole thing, it was a small school, and they weren't going to take any chances. I had a girlfriend when I was home one summer from college. She got into a fender bender and smashed her nose on the steering wheel. No break, but somehow it caused black and blue marks, like thick lines under both her eyes. It didn't necessarily look like she got an eye jammy, but they were very noticeable. We would go out and guys would say stupid things to me, but if you looked closely it really wasn't a black eye from a punch. Fast forward about 12 years and my wife, different woman, was pushing clothes to Kenneth Cole. I remember the brand. We should have sued. Mini umbrella and the handle clicked, but then snapped back and got it right by her eye, giving her a classic shiner. That looked like someone punched her. Her eye was fine, but the ear doctor said there might be a small fracture that the rays didn't pick up. And it hit a nerve so half her face was numb for a year. She said people who didn't know her would treat her differently, and not in a good way, thinking she got punched. Murder. When I was 12 years old I was accused of murder. There was a kid in my tiny ass town that went missing. The day before he went missing me and him had got into a fist fight. We were friends on and off like kids are at that age. I knew his mom and deadbeat stepdad and they knew my mom. The entire town from the time he went missing all accused me. My mom didn't believe me, my friends didn't, and my teachers. 2 people believed it was to be my little sister and the kid who went missing's older brother. We had a school assembly honoring him and I remember every single kid in the school there except me and my little sister, because I wasn't allowed to go so she stayed behind with me. The local news station did a reenactment of what they think happened. They got a kid who looked exactly like me to play my part. It was fucking scary. I had Canadian type by cops take me in their SUV in my driveway and record my statements. They ended up finding a campfire on the waterfalls in my town with some empty chocolate wrappers around it. They concluded that he had fallen or been pushed by me off the waterfalls. The hate went on for around a month until they discovered his body down the creek near the river. An autopsy was done and it was ruled that there was no foul play. I remember getting then phone call. The lady who did the autopsy had called my mom personally because she had heard about my story. We come to find out later on that his stepdad had beat the shit out of him that night, and he ran away, stole $400 and bought some chocolate bars and a lighter, and must have thought he'd be safe at the waterfalls. Ever since then whenever I'm accused of something I instantly feel like I did it. Anyone accuses me of anything I instantly feel guilty and act like I am. I'm 34 now and it's still like that. Shit fucked me up good. My first management position was overseeing a few dozen new hires and determining where they would make the best fit and excel based on their strengths. I had been with the company 13 years and in this position a little over a year. Had a new hire who was a recent college grad and the issues started piling up immediately. Nothing really bad, just a lot of little things, showing up on time, following the dress code, professionalism over the phone and email, right out of the gate. Not exactly abnormal. Sometimes they're not aware of the expectations or need to be told how their behavior is being perceived. The behavior did not improve, and there were multiple warnings: informal, "Hey, notice this," and formal, written warnings that get forwarded to HR. As we approached the 90-day review, it was clear to me that I would be recommending termination. The behavior had escalated to the point of being defiant. Not showing up for work at all, talking to payroll without permission, dating a coworker unprofessionally, and one memorable incident where this employee insisted that they couldn't participate in a project because they had allergies. About a week before the review was scheduled, she dropped a complaint with HR. I was sexually harassing her. I was trying to date her and everybody knew it. I talked about how much I admired Hitler. I was inviting her to drinking parties after work. All of it was bullshit. The investigation lasted 6 months. During that time I was reassigned to a do-nothing job. I got interviewed a dozen times because she kept adding allegations. Eventually they had enough to allow the lawyers to clear me, fire her, and get me back into a parallel position that was not in fact parallel. It was a shitty no-win job that I worked my ass off in for 3 more years. Eventually my mentor took me to lunch and laid it out. I had no future with the company. I could stay where I was, but there would never be the possibility for advancement. The stain of having an HR investigation was just too much. I was being kept on so I wouldn't sue them. His advice was to find a job in a different city, pack up, and they would send a sterling reference. I had been there 16 years. I moved, started over in a new career field, and do a lot of counseling. Rape. I was 14 at the time. I went on a double date with a girl and 2 of our mutual friends, and 2 days later I get a message on AIM from this girl's sister, accusing me of raping her. I denied it and thought that was the end of it. Apparently not. This girl then started spreading it to other people. It never got to my parents or the cops that I know of, but I finally told a whole bunch of people in a group chat what happened. Not only did I not rape her, I did not have sex with her. Not only did I not have sex with her, I had not had sex with anybody. Not only had I not had sex with anybody, I had never seen her touch a vagina in my life. There were 2 people with us literally the entire time we were together. If a crime was committed, she would have witnesses. Eventually she stopped accusing me and it went away. I thought that was the end of it. Apparently not. 5 years later and I work summers and holidays at a movie theater. My ex, who I was still friends with, worked there as well. The summer after my freshman year of college, a new guy gets hired and finds out we used to date and approaches her and asks if she knew anything about me ever raping a girl. She doesn't know anything about me raping a girl because I never raped a girl, but she asks me, and I immediately know what happened. Yeah, this girl from 5 years ago found out this guy just got hired at the movie theater, and said, "I'm so glad, now I can check with you to get the staff schedule and see when it's working, because I never want to go to the movie theater again, and come face to face with my rapist." The first time I met the new guy I told him the whole truth, and I just asked him to tell her that I had decided to consult an attorney, because I was not willing to let my name be slandered again. He did. It was 100% a bluff, but I never heard those accusations again.